Hey everyone, my name is Kristen Lascola, and I'm one of the pastors at North Coast Church here in Fallbrook. We're so bummed we couldn't be actually with you today, but we are so happy that you're able to join us. And so I'm so excited to be here. I think this is an incredible event, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of you and the role you're playing here. So I just want to get started with a little bit of a question. And there's going to be, I wish I could do a raise of hands because I bet you the whole room would have their hands up. How many of you have done one of those ancestry tests? I actually haven't. My dad did one and I kind of thought, that kind of counts for our whole family. But I mean, people are obsessed with these right now. I mean, in fact, 26 million of us are obsessed with these right now, whether it's ancestry.com or 23andMe or MyHeritage, whatever it might be. And most of those 26 million are in the United States. So why are we so fascinated with where we come from? Well, I was thinking about this question. I think all of us want to know, where did I come from? We want to know our story. We want to be able to make sense of ourselves. And while I can't give us a DNA test today, that would probably be illegal anyways, I want to share with you a piece of your genealogy for free, by the way, that you might not even know about. I want to take you back. I want to take you back to the very beginning. I want to take you back to ancestor number 1. And if you're a woman, ancestor number 1 for us is a woman named Eve. And don't panic, because I felt that internal panic on a few of you that, like, maybe if you're a Christian, you're like, please don't tell me the creation story for the millionth time. And if you're not a Christian, you're like, can we not have a sermon preached at us? This is not church, which both groups need not panic, okay? Because if you've been a Christian for a long time, I'm going to tell you some things today that no matter how many times you've heard that story or sat in church, I promise you 99% of Christians have not heard what I'm about to tell you. And if you're not a Christian, don't worry. I'm not going to preach a sermon. I promise you. I don't think I am anyways. That's definitely not my intention. But like I said, I am a pastor, so I'm going to do my absolute best not to do that. So I want to take you back, like I said, to the beginning, because after all, the Bible, it's a historical document. Whether you're a Christian or not, the Bible is a historical document. And here's what fascinates me about this part of history is that this is the very first time that our very first ancestor was on the scene. And like I said, it's this woman named Eve, and, Adam was created first and then Eve on the same day, but just a little bit later. And it's the first time that this word was ever uttered, that this word was ever invented, that this word ever meant anything. Not the word woman. So we know in the Hebrew, it's like woman was taken out of man, woman. So that's, where that comes from. But I want to actually just camp on this other word to help us understand better who we are. And the word that is used to describe Eve on the day of her creation, maybe you've heard it before, is this word helper. And that gets this weird connotation when translated to English, because the Hebrew word is a word called Ezer, E-Z-E-R. I'm sure it's a word maybe very few of you are familiar with. We don't speak Hebrew, right? So Ezer is the word that we've translated into helper. Well, what automatically comes to mind when you hear the word helper? We kind of get these subordination vibes, right? So Adam's some CEO and Eve is his faithful and happy little assistant or something. But that's not at all what is being communicated through this word Ezer. And that's what we're going to talk about today, so that we can go back and start to understand the intention behind our existence, even from the very beginning. Because after Adam named her woman, God, before that, called her Ezer, called her Ezer, called her helper. So what in the world does this word mean? If it's not some subordinate who like just makes sure he has clean clothes and, food in the fridge, like what is the purpose? And I don't know about you, but I really want to know. I really want to get to the bottom of this, because if this is the intention behind my original existence back on day one as a woman, I really want to know what this means. And the word Ezer was used 21 times in the Old Testament, 21 times. So it's not talking about Eve the entire time, because after Genesis, we really don't see her again. So when we start to look at this Hebrew word and all these other instances, we start to build this picture of what it actually means. So a couple of the times it's used to refer to Eve, and then listen to the other times that this word is used. It's fascinating. And the reason I'm excited about this word is because, guys, this is bigger than her. This is bigger than Eve. This is not her history. This is our history. This is our genealogy for every single one of us. This is our intention. So Ezer was used a couple times to describe Eve, and it was also used to refer to a nation that Israel, the nation of Israel, would call on to ally with them for help when they were facing a huge and powerful enemy, when they needed backup for military reasons, when they were in battle, when they were in war, and they're like, we're small, we can't do this on our own. They would call for an Ezer army, an Ezer nation to come and fight alongside them, to come and rescue them when they couldn't stand on their own. I love that. That's you. That's me. Another word or another instance that it's used in the Old Testament is for God himself, when he's referred to God, our helper. So do you start to understand why this whole idea, and maybe if you're not a Christian, you've always thought like, oh, religion makes women, small, and women submissive, and women like obedient. There's all these like weird ideas out there. But let me ask you something. Even if you're not a Christian, is God in submission to his creation? Even just that notion or that idea, that makes no sense. Like, that's nonsense to say that someone who was described as an Ezer on day one would ever be in subordination. But here's the whole idea behind it. The whole idea behind it is a rescuer, is a savior, is someone to come and do for someone what they couldn't do alone or what they couldn't do for themselves, a rescue aid. So what woman does for man is what he couldn't do for himself. Do you know, before Eve showed up on the scene, the condition of Adam was described as not good. And then when she arrives, things are called very good. It's sort of like this cherry on top of the whole story, the whole creation, that like things are very good now because of this Ezer character, this Ezer person, this Ezer role has been filled. And there's all kinds of Ezer women all throughout history that show us what this looks like, to be this type of person that comes alongside and saves. And I don't know about you guys, but that sounds a lot more like Wonder Woman than a Stepford wife. Because here's the thing, that role gets lost on us sometimes. We don't understand why we were made, what our purpose is, what our capability is. And sometimes as women, what we chase and what we fight for and what we pursue, it looks a lot more like little shiny badges for ourselves. And depending on what circle you're in or what your group of influence is, those badges can look a little different. I'm going to name just a few of these badges that women try to earn in our culture, in our society. Some are very relevant to my own life. Some might be relevant to your life. But see if any of these sound familiar. The badge. Okay, so I became a mom like 7 years ago. I have two kids, a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I realized very quickly a whole subcategory of mom badges. You're going to know what I'm talking about. No matter if you had kids like, 40 or 50 years ago, or if you have young children, you will understand what I'm talking about. So there's like the badge of making your own baby food. Okay. But the crazy thing of you just have to announce it. So make sure you post about it, some pictures on social media, because that's how you receive that badge. That's how you get the temporary applause and the little tiny, shiny badge that makes you feel really good making your own baby food. I don't know why, but you get a little mom badge for that. You get a mom badge for being a stay-at-home mom. And maybe you stay-at-home moms are like, no, you don't. You get a mom badge for being a working mom. Oh, and there's the tension, right? There's the tension because no one can decide which is shinier, being at home or being at work as a mom. But you know what? It doesn't matter because we feel guilty either way, right? So I don't know. Everyone gets a badge on that one. The badge of a natural birth. Again, you need to make sure people know about it because how else are you going to get a badge unless everyone knows you went totally natural in every sense of the word. Okay. By the way, I have not received any badges so far. The badge of breastfeeding. Oh, post it. It's beautiful because that makes you a real mom. And man, let's just applaud that. Nothing wrong with it. I'm being facetious because these are the rewards we seek. The badge of cloth diapers. I don't know how popular that one is anymore, but that used to be a badge. And in my particular family, there's a badge for like higher education and making a lot of money. Like a college degree, definitely not enough. You need to have major letters after your name and major zeros after your bank account. Those are big badges in my family. The badge of owning a business or owning your own home. The badge of being thin and beautiful. But let's go one step further. Being beautiful for your age, especially like looking younger than your actual age. That's a big woman badge. All right. The badge of having impeccable personal style for yourself and your home. I fail big time on that one. Don't let this beautiful outfit fool you. I'm really bad at style. Okay. And just the badge of children in general, having healthy children, having successful, well-behaved children, having more than one child, right? That's a little badge. And then these like personal badges of magnetism and popularity and charisma, even involvement and volunteerism. And sometimes as women, we really treasure these badges. We treasure these badges and we fight for these badges because they tell us something about ourselves. They tell us that we are worthy and we like it. We like to feel like we're making those marks because they tell us who we are and they tell us that we're worthy. But what if we went back? Remember the beginning, remember our genealogy, remember that DNA, that Ezer that we were designed to be, the definition and purpose for our existence. So what if we went back to that Ezer identity and forgot about the badges and fighting for our own significance and our own worthiness, and we went and fought for those who cannot fight for themselves? We went and brought aid to someone in need. And I think that's what a lot of you are doing here in the first place. But we've all been given a treasure. We've all been given super valuable treasure to protect and defend. Our marriage is a super valuable treasure. Our children are treasures, I promise. And our loved ones and our extended family, like that bigger, broader circle, our friends. And these things are so much more important than whether our kids are eating all organic or what the number on the scale says, but to come back to our purpose of fighting for the people in our lives that need us. And maybe your family is a mess right now. Maybe those treasures are a mess right now. Maybe there's an addiction in your family and a loved one that you know is struggling. Maybe you're dealing constantly with a rebellious child. Maybe you're dealing with some crazy financial burdens. Maybe you're dealing with a loveless marriage, a lifeless marriage. Maybe those things are weighing hard on you. But today, more than ever, we need to remind ourselves of what is important. And the things that are important are the people, not the temporary applause we get for having a really organized house or being the best cook or having well-behaved children or being super in shape, whatever our goal is. And those things are all fine. But if that's what we're chasing while we're neglecting those treasures, the people we're supposed to be fighting for that cannot fight for themselves. And here's what I mean by that is to rescue our children from the cultural lies, the ones that tell them that they're not enough or where their worthiness comes from or who they should or shouldn't be, but just to speak life over our children, to be in their lives, to spend time with them and to rescue them from that loneliness, to rescue our spouses from feeling that neglect, that coldness, that loneliness. Maybe those crushing feelings of inadequacy that they feel or like they're not good enough or don't measure up in our eyes. Or maybe our loved ones, rescuing our loved ones from isolation or that burden of broken relationship and unforgiveness. And I just want to encourage you that now more than ever, we need to focus on what is important. We need to get our priorities straight. Maybe there's some things in our lives that we just need to say no to that are bringing those treasures down. Maybe there's just some hard boundaries we need to put in place. But here's what an Ezer does. An Ezer fights. If you won't fight for those treasures in your life, who will? Who else is fighting for your children? Who else is fighting for your spouse? And who else is fighting for your loved ones? Because an Ezer fights. An Ezer comes to the aid of those who need them. An Ezer is this person who does what that person can't do for themselves. And that's my encouragement for us today, is to realize who we are, who we were meant to be all the way back from the beginning. And to remind ourselves, are the badges worth it? What are we actually fighting for? And maybe you feel like, yeah, I'm fighting with my family more than I'm fighting for my family right now. We just need a break. I hear you. I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old. I get it. And I don't do all these things perfectly. I was telling my daughter, my 7-year-old the other day, we were at Costco and it went from there was a smoothie spilled in the back seat to I couldn't find my Costco card. It was just like, and then my 2-year-old was throwing a fit. I was getting so frustrated. I snapped at them. And then when we were in line, I had time to calm down. I said, hey, I'm sorry for snapping and getting angry back there. And she said, you're only human. And she's 7, right? She's like, Mommy, you're not perfect, but you're good. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not perfect. I've told her that a million times, but she said, you're good. I'm like, I'll take that. We're not perfect, guys. None of us are. But I guess what I want us to remember is when it comes to fighting with our family, that's real. It's just real life. It's gonna happen. We don't always just treat them like the precious little treasure that they are, right? It's just some days, man. But what is at the core of who we are and what we pursue? Is it fighting for them? Because again, if we don't, who will? And maybe you found yourself in a position where you've lost a lot. Maybe some of those treasures that I named, they're no longer a part of your life. Maybe there's just brokenness there. And I want to encourage you from the bottom of my heart. I have suffered loss too. Fight for what is left. Fight for what is left. Not everything is gone. Fight for the treasure that is left. That's what the Ezer does. The Ezer is there to fight, to salvage, to save, and to rescue. We don't always do it perfectly, and we can't control everything. But fight for what's important in life. And the only thing that's going to last forever is people.